This week on The Destination Angler.
I really do think that we're very lucky to have this life. And I think that, there's so much to see and so much to do that fishing and hunting and hiking and biking really opens the door to so much more than just that experience. You said you wanted an adventure.
You got one.
You got one. There you go.
And that was Brian Oakland on top fly fishing destinations from around the world. Hey, if you like the show, please share it with a buddy. Welcome to the Destination Angler Podcast, the podcast for anglers who travel. And I'm your host, Steve Haigh. We go right to the source, the local guides and experts, to build your knowledge of top fishing locations around North America. It's a big world out there. Now go and fish it.
I'm going away for a while, but I'll be back soon. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Hey anglers, welcome back to another episode of The Destination Angler, brought to you by Trout Routes, the #1 fishing app, helping trout anglers avoid the crowds and explore new public water. Download it today in the App Store and get 20% off using promo code Destination20. By Adams Built Fishing Gear, the trusted source for quality fly fishing gear built to last at an affordable price. And by Got Fishing, crafting world-class fly fishing adventures specially designed to your level of experience and budget. Up next on The Destination Angler, we travel to southwest Montana and Yellowstone country to see how things are fishing after the big flood of 2022. Then we venture to Potter County, Pennsylvania for some incredible trout fishing, Pennsylvania style. Be sure to backcast to catch the last episode, part 2, with the world-renowned guide and all-around nice guy, Pat Dorsey, as we talk tailwater strategies with the master himself. You won't want to miss these shows. And be sure to hit that subscribe button to catch all the Destination Angler episodes coming your way. And now you can catch the Destination Angler podcast on YouTube. And today our destination is a whirlwind tour of the world's top fly fishing adventures. And my guest is seasoned traveler and expert fly angler Brian Oakland, founder of Got Fishing, a hosted travel company that connects anglers with unforgettable destinations. Hey man, if you like adventure, this episode is for you. We'll explore legendary spots like Jurassic Lake in Argentina, Alaska, the Middle Fork of the Salmon River, Christmas Island, and Ascension Bay in Mexico. Along the way, Brian shares insider tips on choosing the right booking agency, what to watch for when booking a lodge yourself, plus tips on gear and travel, and of course, how to pick the best dates for your trip. And be sure to stick around to the end for the powerful story of Brian's recovery journey. All right, well, let's dive in with Brian. Hey, folks. Welcome again to the Destination Angler Podcast. And man, today we're going to be dreaming big because I've got the big dreamer here, Brian Oakland, who runs Got Fishing. He's the founder of Got Fishing, and we're going to take a whirlwind tour of the top fly fishing destinations, right? So at least according to Brian. And Brian, he's a world traveler. He's an expert angler. Have you guided too, Brian? I didn't ask you that.
In the past, a little bit, but no, I'm not a guide.
Okay, you're not a guy. All right. So anyway, so he runs this adventure travel company, in full transparency, if you've been listening to my podcast, you have heard of Got Fishing because they're one of my sponsors, but who else, could I get on here to talk about top fly fishings around the world than a guy who runs, this great company that's got multiple places to take us. So anyway, welcome to the show, Brian.
Hey, thank you. Really appreciate it. Obviously, we're a huge fan of you and the podcast and guests that you have on it. So I'm really proud to be one of them.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, super glad to have you. And so we're gonna touch on some saltwater, some freshwater locations, U.S., South America, middle of the Indian Ocean, and I don't know where else we're gonna go, but we're gonna have a good time here. So, all right, now I got to ask you. It looks like your background, you were someplace with lots of trees, and I think you've been steelhead fishing this week. Is that right?
Yeah. Just got back from Argentina about 7 days ago, and then met a client over here in Idaho, which is my home state, Idaho
Yeah.
and Montana. And we're doing a little bit of steelheading this week.
Okay. What a cool job you have, right?
Oh, life is good for sure.
There you go. Helping people with trips, where to go around the world, talking fishing all day long. Sounds like a pretty good gig to me.
Well, and this is a client that I'm hanging out with, a client turned really good friend. That's probably one of the best things about my occupation is I always say this and I mean it. I have a lot of great friends. I'm not looking for any more. But this occupation and the people that I've met, I just keep adding to the list. I've met so many cool people, and we're just on a DIY trip, just hanging out as
How are
friends,
you?
fishing. So yeah,
Oh, good.
that's probably one of the most gratifying things that have come from this booking agency and just working in the fishing industry is the people that I've met and the friends that I've made.
Man, that's what it's all about. It's not the destination, it's the journey,
It's
I
cool.
think. And here I run a destination podcast.
100%. Here I am on a destination.
And you guys do hunting trips too, is that right?
We do. That's one of the things that differentiates us from some of the other booking agencies, which I know we're talking a little bit about. But yes, we do. Most anglers, including myself, we're outdoorsmen. Not everybody, but a lot of anglers are outdoorsmen. They enjoy other aspects. And so we do have some fishing experiences that also have hunting, such as
Ah,
Argentina. Luciano has a wonderful stag hunt there. And so we do offer some hunts to our adventurers,
cast and blast.
cast and blast.
Sounds like fun. Sounds like a blast.
Those.
So, Brian, where in the world, like, where is this job taking you? Just quickly, what countries, what regions, where have you been with this job?
I've been a lot of places, but still have a lot of places to go. But I've been to Belize, Costa Rica, Mexico, Christmas Island, Argentina, Alaska, obviously Canada, BC.
All over the
Keep
states?
forgetting a few places, but yeah, I've had the luxury of being in a really some really really cool places, and yeah, I can't wait to see more.
Now, my number one listening base is in Pennsylvania. Have you been to Pennsylvania?
I haven't yet, but it's definitely on the list. Yeah,
Come on, man.
yeah. I've been telling Carrie, you got to find us something in Pennsylvania.
It'll kick your butt, man. Those stream, they see a lot of flies out there. There's some educated fish in Pennsylvania and some really great anglers out there too.
Well, I'd love to go fish with you sometime.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
It would be.
Well, let's talk about destination fly fishing, adventure travel. What is that exactly? What does that mean?
So basically, what destination travel is just that. It's getting out of your backyard. It's, most of us have a river, a still water, something that we have been frequenting, and it's kind of our go-to place for fishing. There are some of us that like to, take that and try it at other places or try different experiences, such as saltwater. For me, coming out of Montana and Idaho, saltwater was something that I had no idea how to do. I'd done a little bit of it down in Florida, but true fly fishing in a saltwater flats, chasing, some of those unique fish that you hear about, permit and bonefish and snook and tarpon and things like that, something that I hadn't done. So obviously, you're going to have to get in a plane and grab a passport and throw some trust out there that you're working with the right lodge and go experience in that. So destination is just getting out of your backyard and traveling to a place that, kind of tickles your fancy, a place that you've seen on a YouTube video or, we were at the film tour yesterday. And I think that's a place that people get stimulated. Like, God, I'd love to
Yeah.
go do that. So
And so there are like there's hosted trip companies, there's booking agencies, there's adventure travel companies. Demystify that for me. What does all that mean?
so there are people out there that have really great companies. And I think that that's the most important thing for the listener, is that there are some people that have vested a lot of time and a lot of hard work in exploring, whether it's bike riding across, Argentina, or whether it's, you know, just providing an experience where you may want to host language barriers, schedules, whatever it might be. The problem is today is we have a lot of influencers out there that are trying to do these hosted trips and different things, and they don't necessarily have the experience, nor do they have the company behind them in order to make it happen.
Yeah.
So those of us that are that are true booking agencies that book people on adventures around the world, and we also have a hosted aspect to it where we, lock down a lodge for an entire week and bring our guests in there, like-minded people. There are many companies like us. Scott Fishing is not the only fishing booking destination agency, or even in the hunting. I think it really kind of started in the hunting, and then fishing ended up kind of jumping on that. But yeah, there are a few of us out there that do this. This is what we do day in and day out. We have employees. We've got destinations that we have great relationships with. That we've been to
Yeah.
those places. We fish for the fish. We've slept in the beds. We've eaten the food, and can really give you a firsthand explanation and detailed information and photos of that experience in real time.
Okay. And so you are a how do you classify yourself? Are you a hosted trip company? Are you a what are you?
We are a booking agency for fishing adventures around the world.
Okay, we'll leave it
Yeah.
at that. So it probably doesn't matter exactly what we call you. You can hook people up with some great trips.
We can hook people up with great trips. But yeah, our little elevator pitch is that we are a booking agency for fishing adventures around the world. Our goal at Got Fishing, as it is for many of the booking agencies, is to provide a service to make sure that you are on the perfect trip that meets your budget, that meets your skill set, that meets your, the desired location that you want to go to. I always use Alaska because that's on everybody's bucket list. Either they've either done it or and they know what I'm talking about, or they've been dreaming about doing it and they know what I'm talking about. But you can't swing a dead cat and not hit a lodge in Alaska. And not every one of those lodges are the same. Some of them are incredible, some of them are not incredible, and some of them are kind of in between. So
Huh.
you really want somebody, and none of them are cheap. So
Yeah.
you get what you
Right.
pay for. So Alaska is one of those places that's getting more and more expensive. You really truly, for an all-inclusive trip, 5 to 7 days, you're looking at a minimum of 45, upwards of $12,000. When you
Really.
got planes
Wow.
and stuff involved.
That ain't pocket change, man.
That is not pocket change. And how horrible is it for the average guy, average gal who works their butt off to save up 45 or $6,000 and the gratuity and all this other stuff and the extra gear and get there and have this unbelievable experience, built up in their mind, and
Yeah.
then get there and not have it be that.
Yeah.
So that's what Got Fishing eliminates. We can't control weather and we can't control fish, but we can control everything else. And instead of telling you, about these lodges that you should go to, we more turn the table and ask, what are you looking for? What is your style? What is
Yeah.
your flavor? And then match you up with that so that, yeah, we're in the ballpark of, hitting exactly what it is that you're looking for.
Okay. So let's just say I want to go to one of your top 5 locations and I haven't decided yet. And so we're just going to tick through kind of Brian's list. And we talked before the show, maybe since you just got back from Argentina, maybe we can talk about Argentina.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. So here's my top 3 questions. What's it known for? Why is the fishing so good? And what's the experience like? And I got a whole bunch of other questions as I always do, but that's kind of where I'm kind of thinking. What's the headline in Argentina? And you got a couple places down there you take people to.
Yeah, yeah. I would say the headline in Argentina is diversity, and there's so much access to a wide variety of really, really cool fishing. Montana and Idaho are very, very popular here in the United States. Very popular for, trout fishing and coming to kind of an adventure, especially from Pennsylvania, right? So when you get to Montana, it's a little bit of a disappointment in comparison to the river runs through it or some of the magazines, that you maybe read. There's about 60 to 100 vehicles in the parking lot. There's a million boats on the river, especially if you're fishing a blue ribbon fishery.
Yeah.
At any of the hubs, Bozeman or Missoula or any of those, there are going to be a million people on that river. So it's not serene. It's still very, very cool. And these are my home states. I love them. You go to Argentina, it's Montana 50 years ago. You
Hmm.
can drink the water.
Have you done that? Seriously?
Yes, I just did it 2 weeks ago because I was told that I could do it 6 months ago when I was talking to Gonzalo, one of the lodge owners. And so, yeah, I did it.
Because all it takes is one sheep to poop in the stream, and you drink that, man, and you're Girardi abound.
And there are sheep there. There are
Are
sheep there.
there? But you
Yeah,
drank the
no,
water and you didn't get sick. All right.
no. That might just be me. You never know.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
got a
I did
tough
drink the
stomach.
water. I did drink the water. True story. It looks drinkable. It is drinkable. But the point is that it is Montana yesterday. It is absolutely beautiful. Maybe two or three boats on the water, and in some of these areas, none. Kind of depending on where you're at. The fish are huge in comparison to what we have.
Yeah.
They're hungry. A lot of our fish get beat down in July and August because of all of the fishing.
Meaner in the
And
States.
yeah, these fish
Yeah.
are very active.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the dollar goes a long way too. So that's how why so popular. Our dollar goes a long way in Argentina. Their economy is improving, but it's been a great place to go down there and bring your spouse. Add extra things on to these fishing adventures like wine tours, and there's so many cool things to do in
Oh,
Argentina that a lot of husbands who have a desire to go on some of these really cool, more extreme fishing adventures have tied in bringing their wives down for, touring Buenos Aires or some of the other places.
Yeah.
So diversity in not only fishing, but things to do.
It's a huge country too, isn't it? Because I was when I did the show on Jurassic Lake with your buddy Lucho, it was 2,000 miles from Buenos Aires down to Jurassic. 2,000 miles, that's like Indianapolis to California.
Yeah,
It's a
very little in between.
right, right. Do you struggle finding new trout streams to explore? Tired of stumbling around country roads looking for access points? Looking to escape the crowds? Then look no further because Trout Routes has meticulously mapped and classified over 50,000 trout streams covering the entire lower 48, including 350,000 hand-curated public access points marked and ready for you to explore. I'm a huge fan of Trout Routes because they make it so easy to explore new trout waters. Many times, Trout Routes has helped me find new public water and get into fish fast. And the good folks at Trout Routes have been busy this winter making Trout Routes even better. Enter StreamCards 2.0, the latest iOS release that brings together more info at your fingertips by organizing data like stream flows, access laws, nearest fly shops into easily accessible tabs for every river and stream in the app. And now you can check real-time stream height and flow rates with river data from stream gauges and compare those with historical data to spot trends. Pretty cool, huh? Planning a trip? Well, you'll love the advanced filter features that let you hone in on top-rated streams, boat ramps, camping spots, and more. So what are you waiting for? Start exploring today by downloading Trout Routes on your Apple or Android phone. Hey anglers, if you're on the hunt for fishing gear that's as tough as you are, look no further than Adams Built Fishing Gear. Since 2014, Adams Built has been the go-to choice for anglers who demand quality without breaking the bank. Their lineup of lightweight waders, high-quality nets, and meticulously designed fly boxes is second to none. But here's what really impressed me. Adams Built stands behind their products like no other. Every single item is guaranteed to last. Yep, you heard that right. And get this, Adams Built waders even come with a lifetime repair replace guarantee, with you only paying for shipping. Now that's a deal you can't beat. So why settle for gear that won't last? Make the smart choice and gear up with Adams Built Fishing Gear today. Ask your local dealer for Adams Built or visit www.adamsbuiltfishing.com and tell them Steve sent you from the Destination Angler podcast. All right, so where are you taking people in Argentina?
So our favorite place is Jurassic Lake, Estancia Laguna Verde specifically. That's Luciano's lodge. And to be clear, that is for the angler that is looking for an adventure. This is not, although we have taken anglers there that have never really done an adventure and they ended up loving it. Most people that go to Jurassic, it's kind of been on their bucket list. They've heard about this place. It's in the middle of nowhere that has double-digit rainbows on almost every single cast.
Like weight you're talking about? Like 10-pound rainbows?
We're talking on almost every time that indicator goes down, or if you're stripping, you're talking 8 to 11 pounds almost every single time minimum. And then 13, 16, 19, 12, a variety of large double-digit fish. And on this last one, we had an 18 and a couple 20s that were caught.
Oh, you did in a week? You guys got that? Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, what is a gigantic rainbow that's 18 pounds? Do they fight pretty good, or are they just big and dumb and slow?
Both. Well, one of the things about these fish, like, we talk about Pyramid Lake a little bit too, because I call it Poor Man's Jurassic Lake. Those fish can get kind of slobby and kind of drape over your fingers and stuff. These fish over in Jurassic are firm. They're just big, firm, healthy fish.
Cool.
In large part, there's a couple of them that they get a little weird, but yeah, no matter how big they are, the smaller they are, the 8 to 11s, 12s, they fight hard. They're spunky.
Yeah.
The really big fish, when you hook into them, it's just a different fish. It's just more of a pump, and they just kind of take you into your backing, not real violently, but just start swimming to the deep waters, and you just, play them.
Big, full bend in that rod, huh?
Yeah. I'd say the bigger ones are actually probably at the end of the day easier to land if you just have patience.
Okay. And you say it's an adventure. Why do you say that? I know it's kind of remote, but what do you mean when you say it's an adventure?
Well, the whole thing, yeah. So first off, the travel, it does take about a day and a half. You fly from the United States to Buenos Aires. You land there typically in the morning. You catch one more flight to a cool little town called El Calafate,
Uh-huh.
and then you spend the night there. Go out for a nice dinner. The next morning, the lodge picks you up, and it's about a 4.5 hour shuttle. Again, getting to see a really cool part of Argentina, but it's an adventure. You're still not at the lodge, and we're going on a day and a half. Finally arrive at the lodge, and it is spectacular. And the lodge is one of the premier lodges that I've ever been to, from the people to just everything. It's hard to explain, but it is fantastic. And so then when you get there, you realize how windy it is. It is windy. So you hear about the Patagonia wind, and then you end up experiencing the Patagonia wind, and a lot of people, I do think, kind of have this moment like, what am I doing here? Like, what am I
Yeah.
doing here? And then you, like, 48 hours later, they're like, are we coming back next year? The people, the fish, the guides, everything about Jurassic Lake is just
Okay.
is special, but it is rugged. There's a lot of wind involved and long days. So yeah,
Winter coats, I noticed in a lot of the pictures.
so every single picture of almost you see, people have got their jackets, their hoods.
Is that
So
right? Okay.
you're not running
So,
around in shorts. It's not warm.
so this is not your grandma's fishing trip here.
No, it's not.
All right. So, and you go to a couple other places too. Where else do you go in Argentina?
We go to central Argentina, a lodge that we work with called Argentina Waters, and they have a diverse fishery up there. Where we were just there also last week. I did back-to-back hosted trips, and they've got rivers and streams. They've got some incredible still water. What's unique about that is, like, so Jurassic Lake is only rainbows,
Yeah.
and another
Yeah.
podcast, Luciano kind of explained how that all happened for people that want to know how those fish were introduced to Strobel Lake, aka Jurassic. But what I found interesting when I went into central Argentina is that a lot of these lakes, like we went to this lake that had nothing but brook trout, big brook trout, and it was very, very impressive. Absolutely gorgeous. Again, gin clear water, but the only thing that this lake held was brook trout. And if you go down a few miles, there's another lake that they called Lake Number Three, I believe it was, and it only had giant rainbows. And the lake that they have right in front of their lodge only has browns, and they've got big browns. So, and then you get on the rivers, they do have diversity there. There's some browns and some rainbows. But I found that really interesting that when we would go to fish some of these still waters, we were specifically targeting a fish because that was the only fish that was in the water. And also different techniques during the time of the year. So again, the central part of Argentina is, when I say it was like Montana and Idaho yesterday, that's what I'm talking about. That part of it, from like
Yeah.
northern Patagonia down to about central, is more lush, green.
Okay.
It's got more four seasons. Jurassic is way, way, way down in the south. So it's not lush, it's
It's
not
like the
green.
moon, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Incredible moon, but yeah, it's on the moon.
What are the dates, that you want to book for like a Jurassic Lake? What's the best time of year to go there and then this other place, the Argentina Waters program?
The Argentina waters is a little bit more complicated. Not complicated, but it kind of depends on the style of fishing. So Jurassic first. Jurassic opens up in the middle of November and ends at the end of March and early April.
Okay.
So first off, for the listeners, everything is opposite down there. So our June, July, and August is their December, January, February. So when I say that, the best time to be there is their summer months, which are November, December, January,
Yeah,
that is summer
flipped.
down. And so I think the best time to be, at Jurassic, the very first time I went down there was at the end of March, April. Every single day the wind blew, but the fish were big. And if you talk to Lucho, end of the season, less fish, but bigger fish. And the weather can be a little bit more non-conducive, just a little bit consecutively, days with wind and temperatures, but big fish.
All right.
I went last year in January, and I loved it. We had everything. We had crappy weather, windy. We had still dead calm. We caught fish on top. We caught fish down below. It was an amazing trip. This year I went in February and had this same experience. So I really think the best times, in my opinion, to get kind of everything it would be the December, January into
December,
February.
January.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. Yeah, and you've also got a Sea Run Brown outfit down there as well?
we do Cow Tappan, which is even a little bit further south of Jurassic.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
they're down on the Rio Grande. And that is a very, very special trip for a very special angler. Those trips are very expensive, but they are worth it if you're looking for, that trip in particular is one where you really want to be with the right lodge that has the right beats, because it's a lot like steelhead fishing. When those fish come in and they sit in those different what they call beats, you want to make sure that you're working with the lodge, saving 2 or 3 grand on a lodge that's upriver from this particular lodge in this scenario might not be the smart move,
Ah,
because this is, again, you're traveling a long ways for a very unique fish that may or may not be there, and you want to make sure that you're with the lodge that provides you the entire experience. And so, yeah, we're very proud to be working with Cow Tappan. We've sent quite a few clients down there, and many of them have returned.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Argentina is a great place. It really is. For the adventure angler that's looking to get out there solo, there's always hosted trips. We have one. We have a couple every single year. And for those that are looking to get a group together, there's lots of options. And then husbands and wives as well.
Yeah,
Great way for husbands to get on cool adventures and make their spouses a part of it.
there we go. Here's Brian Oakland, founder of Got Fishing.
There's really no reason for an angler not to use Got Fishing when everything we do for you is free. We have the best trips around the world. We only work with the best outfitters, and we're definitely going to get you the best deal and the best dates guaranteed. That's why we have clients come back time and time again. We have Don with us on this trip. This has been his 6th fishing adventure with Got Fishing, and I think if you asked him, it is because of all the little things. We don't tell people, we ask questions. What is it that you're looking for? What would be most important to you? Who's coming with you? What's your experience level? And really, at the end of the day, what is the most important aspect of this experience that you're looking to take home? And then from there, we just marry them up with some of the best lodges, let them take a look at 2 or 3 different options, and pick what's going to be best for them.
Well, there you have it, folks. A pretty good case for choosing Got Fishing for your next big adventure. So what are you waiting for? Give Brian a shout or visit gotfishing.com. All right, so where do we go next, Brian?
Probably, like, people always say, what are your less expensive trips, right? Because we're talking about Jurassic Lake, which is not inexpensive. It's $7,500
Yeah.
for a full week. All of those trips over there, are going to range from 6 to Cow Tappan. In all honesty, is about 11,000 depending on the week. So
There you
these are
go.
expensive, and that's not for everybody. That's the top of the pyramid. People that have that kind of discretionary income to drop on a week. Highly worth it if you do. But there's a lot of anglers out there that don't have that kind of ability, but still want to go on a really world-class adventure. And that's where I come back to my great state of Idaho.
Ooh,
Middle fork of the Salmon River is probably as good. Like, I would put it right underneath Jurassic Lake and maybe tied with it if you put in all the factors. But the Middle Fork of the Salmon River is a world-class adventure. People travel from all over the world to do it. It gets overlooked, but it is 6 days through the Frank Church Wilderness, which is the largest wilderness in the lower 48. You are, whitewater rafting. You are catching as many West Slope cutthroat as you can handle, literally 15 to 50 a day, kind of depending. There's hiking, there's natural hot springs, there's bears, bald eagles, not grizzlies. There's the full spectrum of adventure on it, and it's very inexpensive when you compare it to these others. From somewhere between 25 and 3,500,
yeah.
you can be on a 6-day all-inclusive adventure, all gear, all tents, all food. And speaking of the food real quick, is incredible. A lot of people are like, well, how does that happen? These guys are Dutch oven masters, and it'll be some of the best food that you've eaten on the side of a river.
I love Dutch oven food.
I
You just
love
throw
that
the,
food myself. Yeah, I do too.
yeah, you dump the box of Jif in there and put some apples in there and stir it up and cook it. And you've got apple cobbler, I think, from my Boy
Exactly.
Scout days.
Something like
They
that.
probably do something a little better than that. All right, that sounds like that's a trip I definitely wanna do. I did an episode 95 on that if you guys wanna hear more about that. But there's a reason it's a 6-day trip, right?
Well, yeah, once you launch and get on that river, there's an entrance and an exit. There are airstrips along the way that were designated years ago before it was created into a wilderness. There's grandfather clause, so there are some cabins and some ranches and stuff back in the Frank Church. But otherwise, it is completely motorless and minus these special permits that people have. And when you get on the river, you get in at point A and you get out at point B, and that's 100 miles.
100 miles of rafting. Is it, like, what percent of it is rafting versus fly fishing? Where, like, I've got to strap on a helmet and a life preserver, and I'm going through some rapids. Is that most of the trip, or is it mostly
No,
fishing?
no. They do say, if you read literature on it, they'll say, there's 100 rapids and 100 miles. Most of those rapids are not necessarily classified as rapids. So I think that gets misunderstood. Like, people
Yeah.
are fly fishing in class 3 and class 5 rapids. No,
Drive-by fly fishing.
exactly. Yeah. You said you wanted an adventure.
You got one.
You got one. There you go. Fly fishing in class 5. But the hookups are crazy. There are some good rapids on there, though, where you do put the fly rod away, get on a life jacket, and that's also what makes it an adventure. There are
Yeah.
some really spicy rapids that are in there. Obviously, the guides know what they're doing. No one ever gets hurt, but yeah, you're going to get soaking wet, and it's a blast.
No kidding. I think this is the show where aren't there hermits that live down in these canyons and they have like ladders going up and they plant things up top and they kind of weird like that.
Back in the day, yeah, yeah,
Back in
yeah.
the day, not now.
The main salmon and the middle fork salmon were filled with people that wanted to get away from society. And
Yeah.
there's some great stories on like Buckskin Bill over on the main salmon that, yeah, they're
Trigger Vic.
legends. They're
Yeah.
legends. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, that sounds like a good one. And you don't have to go, 16 hours on an airplane to get to it.
You don't. You don't need a passport. Obviously, it's not free, but if for these adventurers where everything is taken care of for you, a lot of us don't have rafts and tents and all that other stuff,
Yeah.
and don't have access. So you do got to pay to play on some of these. That is a really good one, and it's a great family trip as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of kids of all ages can go on it.
That sounds great. Okay. There you go, folks. How about it? Where are we going next, Brian?
Everybody obviously loves Alaska. And so, we have some great lodges in Alaska. I'm not going to go through each one of them specifically. You can jump on our website and request some information. But what we've done is kind of exactly like what I told you the point of a booking agent is, and that is to make sure that you're on the exact destination that you're looking for that meets your budget. And like we talked about, Alaska is expensive and it does have a range of budgets. You can go up to Alaska. We have a trip called the Gateway to Alaska. That's incredible. It's on the Naknek River. It's going to be, and it's fully guided, incredible food, incredible people. That's going to be on the lower end. You're going to be able to do that trip from anywhere from 44,000 to 6,500, kind of depending on how many days you want to be on it.
What kind of fishing is that, Brian? What are you fishing for?
We're fishing for salmon,
Okay.
always in Alaska. We're fishing for salmon, and it just depends on what kind of salmon you want to fish for. June, July, or August. We got kings coming in at first, which again, why you want to work with a booking agent is because not every rivers have kings coming in them anymore, but we do have lodges that are selling those trips. Then you have the silvers, and then you have the sockeye, and then you have the silvers, and then a lot of anglers love targeting the large rainbows that you can catch in between.
Okay. What's a large rainbow in Alaska? How big's that?
26, 28, 30.
Really?
Yeah. Steelhead size.
My grandfather hunted and fished all over North America, and he had a really wealthy friend who ran a big company in Toledo, Ohio. He used to take him along on all these trips, and I've got pictures of my grandfather holding 30-inch rainbows just like the end of a day of hunting. They
Yeah.
decided to go fishing in these like from the 1950s, in Alaska. So I kind of want to catch one of those. Where do you go to do that?
On a lot of the rivers that carry the big salmon and then have, still waters connected to them. So those rainbows will come out of the still water into the rivers and they'll feed on those eggs. And, as a matter of fact, a lot of trophy like rainbow anglers will show up in Alaska in September.
Oh, okay.
Clouds are gone. They're really there to chase the rainbows. The rainbows are fat. And yeah, it's a blast. I haven't specifically gone to Alaska in September to target rainbows, but every time I've been to Alaska, we've targeted rainbows, and yeah, they're even from a guy that was born and raised catching rainbows and nice rainbows in Montana and Idaho. These are incredible.
Are they? Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
What is the allure of Alaska? I mean, I can think of a lot of things, but what would you say it is?
I think it's just because it's what you grew up seeing. You know, any of us that have this appetite today probably grew up watching TV shows on Sunday. And, you know, so much of that was centered around Alaska and that adventuring. There's a lot of hunting shows out there too that are all centered around Alaska.
Yeah.
I think that most of us that have this kind of desire, this propensity for adventure at whatever level, Alaska just kind of reeks of it. And it's also accessible. Even though it's not connected to the United States, it is a part of the United States. And so you feel like you're going on an adventure without some of the things that are required for these other adventures, such as passports and, you know, things like that. So
Okay.
I think it's few people feel like it's doable. And also everybody's got a friend who's done it.
Yeah.
So not everybody's got a
True.
friend that's been to Argentina. Not everybody's got a friend that's been to Christmas Island. Everybody's got a friend who just got back from Alaska with 40 to 60 pounds of fresh fish in their freezer. And the husband is telling the wife, we should do that.
Yeah. Right. I need to get up there. That and float plane in Ontario. That's what I grew up. I had a grandmother knew somebody who had turned us on to that. And that was pretty cool, spin
Definitely.
fishing back then.
Yeah.
So with all these lodges up there, I mean, I've actually heard as big as Alaska is, it's kind of getting crowded up there. What do you think about that?
I think that the good lodges are getting crowded up there, right? I
Okay.
think that there's some lodges up there that have just kind of been around forever and have really hit that trade show circuit. And they've been showing that king salmon from way, way, way yesterday. And people are like, oh my God, you know, and it's buy one, get one free. And, you know, you get up there and you're like, shit, I would have paid, you know, I wouldn't have taken the free one if I would have known that it was going to be like this. So
Yeah.
I think that you end up kind of getting what you pay for. A lot of that has been snuffed out. You know, there are good booking agencies out there that are really helping with that. And so when you've got a good lodge and they stand out, it doesn't take too long for the word to get out, like anything. And same with fishing lodges.
What's a typical day in Alaska at one of the lodges that you're with? It probably varies a little bit, but give me a sense. Are you flying in and out? Are you getting in jet boats? Are you just stepping out of the lodge into the stream and walking up and down? What's it like?
Such a great question. And again, kind of back to why people use a booking agency. Each one of these lodges does provide kind of a different experience. All the way from, like I was telling you, the gateway to Alaska is walk out of the lodge, walk onto the dock, and get in a jet sled and head up the Naknek River, a very famous river. People have heard about it, and you're mainly going to be in a boat. There, we do have a fly out to the bear park for bear viewing at Katmai. That's a part of it, which just kind of is a really, really cool add-on. You actually do get in a plane, you get to fly over some of Alaska, you get to land and check out the bears. But that's going to be mainly a boat. You're getting in a jet sled and fishing Alaska.
Okay.
Then we have another lodge, you know. So maybe I'm talking with someone who's like, I've been to Alaska and I'd like to step it up. I'd like to do some boats, some jet sleds, but I would also like to fly out to some remote waters. So we have another lodge that has a helicopter. And they do helicoptering to remote waters, but they also do a lot of whitewater rafting, meaning, or not water rafting, but rafting experiences where
Yeah.
you'll fly in a helicopter maybe what they call, you know, 2 or 3 days upriver. So maybe 20, 30 miles upriver. And
Hmm.
there'll be guides and everybody waiting for you with rafts and everything ready to rock and roll. You'll float for 3 days, you know, in true Alaska wilderness,
Cool.
get to the lodge and then have 3 days of lodge and kind of pampering and chef prepared food. And people are looking for that experience. And then we have the lodge like Abe Blair, who's been on your podcast. You know, he
Yeah.
manages two different lodges that are side by side under the same ownership. That one has, you know, everything. It's an Orvis endorsed lodge, and it has everything from flying out every single day to remote waters, and obviously that's not free, all the way from doing, you know, jet sleds every day into to local waters. So they offer kind of a menu, but it is an Orvis endorsed lodge. And so for our anglers that are looking for something that has a little bit higher touch to it, maybe all the gear provided and a full Alaska experience, we'll move them to Intricate Bay Lodge. So again, it's all about listening to what the angler is really looking for. That is the benefit of working with us. And I do
Okay.
just want to mention as people are listening, yeah, but how much is it to work with you? It's free. Like
Yeah.
that's the we are 100% free. There's no catch. There's no yeah, but there's none. And as a matter of fact, I would also tell you that many times we have better dates than some of the lodges actually have, because we have secured them ahead of time because we have these great relationships with these lodges. And instead of booking like where the end user is booking one trip a year, we're
Yeah.
booking 50, 60. So we actually, get the best deals.
You
We
do.
actually get the best dates. Any cancellations that come down the pipe, we get. So yeah, everything we do for you is 100% free. And
Yeah,
our
that's cool.
how do we get paid? The outfitter does compensate us. So obviously, we're not charity. We do this for money, but the angler uses us as an insurance policy to make sure they're on the best trip and getting the best pricing and having the best dates.
The dates, I tell you, I can't tell you how many times I've been steelhead salmon fishing and I shouldn't have taken the date that I took, and I probably called too late to get in there, and we didn't do very well, and I feel like dates seem like the trickiest part of all this, getting the right date, because they're always going to tell you, oh, that's a great time to come. The guide's trying to make a living.
I think that the better the deal is and the more availability there are, that's the shoulder seasons. And that's what you want
Hmm.
to be careful of. I mean, you want to pay, get a 25% discount on a shoulder season, or you want to pay 100% and catch fish.
Yeah.
So sometimes the deal is a little bit deceiving. And again, God bless these lodges. I'm in sales and marketing. We got to do what we got to do. But again, our job, our,
Yeah.
our our service is to make sure that you do get the right deal, that you don't get taken by the wrong deal, and that the experience that you're looking for is the experience that you get.
Okay. Super interesting. And folks, the show I did on Intricate Bay Lodge was with Abe Blair at show 85. And I think Abe talked about bear encounters for the first half hour. It was my number one show that year. People just love hearing about that stuff. Have you had some encounters up there with some
Yeah.
wildlife?
So Abe and I we did what's called the Lodge and Stars. So you do 3 days of rafting. It's 2 nights and 3 days on the river, and then head over. And this is when I was checking out the lodge a few years ago. And so him and I went out on a kind of an exploratory. We were the first ones on the water. We had two guides with us, and they were downriver checking some other stuff out. We were setting up camp, and I just remember, and I have a video of this. I opened up my tent door, and right in front of me, and I'm talking 20 yards, 25 yards, is a sow grizzly, right
Really?
there eating a salmon. And then out from the tent comes a cub, and then another cub, and then another cub. So we had a mama with three cubs 20 yards from our tent. And you can hear Abe and I talking. I'm in one tent, he's the other. It's like,
You got to send me that video. Can you
it
send
is
that to me, Brian?
incredible. I can,
That's
absolutely.
amazing. So what happened? Did they just wander off, or did they come over and bite your ear off?
They were eating salmon. And so there you will have many moments where you are closer to these bears than you think is safe. Like if you were in Montana and this happened, you'd be dead
Yeah.
before you could see these bears. But for some reason, and the reason is all the salmon, they will walk right by you, like literally walk right up the river, walk right by you. Your heart's racing, but they have no interest. And you never do hear stories of, you know, angler gets attacked by a bear. Never happens. I'm not gonna say never. I'm sure that it does,
Rare.
but very, very rare.
So, for instance, did you hear those bears outside your tent before you
I
saw
heard
them?
the crunching. Literally, is what I heard was the crunching of her eating that sockeye carcass. I unzipped my tent. Had just crawled in and was arranging my sleeping bag and my pad. So you can see in the video, I'm doing some stuff. I unzipped the tent, and there she is, just right there. Like I
Did
said,
you have to
20 yards.
change your underwear after you saw all this?
I said, Abe. He goes, this is incredible. He's like, incredible.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, did you see that? Did you see that? Because these
Yeah.
cubs kept coming out from behind this other tent that we had set up. And, the most dangerous apex predator on the planet is a sow grizzly with cubs.
Yeah. Right. and so you could smell them. Wow. So what is your website says authentic Alaskan experience? What does that mean?
right there. It doesn't
What
get any
you
more
just described.
exactly.
That's it.
Sleeping with the
Bear.
bears. Yeah, yeah. How authentic would you like it to be? Because all joking aside, we can make it from hot tubs and wine and unbelievable meals and Orvis and Doris and people that will dress you and cast for you and net your fish for you, all the way down to yeah, sleeping with the bears and eating meals cooked off of Coleman stoves and really experiencing Alaska like you
Yeah.
really actually want to be honest. I mean, that is what's called. It isn't going to a lodge and staying in a comfortable bed, although that is awesome. You can do that for a lot less expensive. It's
Yeah.
about going to Alaska and experiencing the mosquitoes, the bears, the
Wait,
giant
mosquitoes? They got mosquitoes in Alaska?
I'd say that's the one downside of Alaska.
I've heard
That's crazy.
clouds of them, pounds and
Clouds.
pounds of mosquitoes.
Every cool place has a downside, which is what helps keep it cool, right?
All right, so there you go, folks. Be sure to ask if you call Brian, whoever, what's the downside of going here? Wind in Argentina on Strobel,
Exactly.
mosquitoes in
Mosquitoes and
Alaska.
rain. Rain.
Oh
A
yeah,
lot of can be able to be sitting there in a lot of rain. Then when the rain stops, the mosquitoes come
rainforest.
in. Yeah.
All right. How about, I am dying to hear about Christmas Island, and it's called
Care-
Kiribati. Is that it's one of the islands? Is it a arpeggio of islands?
This is a bully that was discovered years ago and nothing is going on there. I mean, it is not moving forward. It's not moving backwards. It's just this place that is stuck in time that has world class fishing. So when people talk about top five destinations, people always ask me what that is, and I didn't write the book on it. This is just my opinion and opinion of people that I hang out with. But I think that there's you could intermix these for sure. Jurassic Lake would definitely be one of them. Ascension Bay in Mexico would be one of them. Alaska would be one of them, and Christmas Island would certainly be one of them. For your destination angler, it's a cool place. It's an adventure. Old school Christmas Island was really an adventure.
Ah,
No air conditioning and food wasn't good, but fishing was just off the hook. It was unlike anything anybody had seen. And I've been lucky enough to be there. Went there last May. Took a group.
wow.
Yeah, and it's all that.
How long did it take you to get there?
So again, back to the adventure part. You do
Yeah.
fly to Hawaii. You spend the night in Hawaii,
Oh, not bad.
and can do that in some cool ways too. I know people that fly in a couple days early and do some of that prolific bone fishing that they have
Yeah.
for giant bones. But there's other stuff to do. Everybody wants to go to Hawaii, so this is kind of your opportunity if you haven't been there. Spend a few extra days on the front or back end, and then you from Fiji Air, you fly down to Christmas Island. 6 days. You fly out on a Tuesday.
So it's in the Pacific? It's not in the Ocean. Where is it exactly?
It is literally straight south of Hawaii.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yep, United States. Obviously, you move east. There's the Hawaiian Islands, and you go straight south from there. You're going to run into Kiribati, Christmas Island, and
Gotcha.
literally in the middle of truly nowhere. One flight a day on Tuesday, and it's funny if you cross the international date line, so you leave on a Tuesday, land on a Wednesday, leave on a Wednesday, land on a Tuesday, something like that.
Crazy.
Crazy. But yeah, you get to this island. There's no leaving it, because again, the flight doesn't come back till the next Tuesday.
Oh, one flight a week?
One flight a week.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have like mercy ships out there to rescue you if you have a heart attack or something?
No, you need global rescue.
Global rescue. There is something that can come save you if you have like a aneurysm blow up.
Yeah, it will come get you if there's an issue. But yeah, as part of the adventure, one flight. And there has been times, although it's infrequent, where that flight doesn't show up the following Tuesday for whatever reason.
Really?
Yeah.
It doesn't show up the following Tuesday?
Yeah, they always have issues with contracts, fuel, some disagreement with the Kiribati government because they didn't do their paperwork. So it's a bit of an adventurous place for sure.
Okay.
They just had a fuel shortage a few weeks ago, so not every boat could go out every single day because the barge was refusing to come to the island because the Kiribati government had not made the changes to the docks that needed to be made. I don't know all the intricacies, but there's always something going on with Christmas Island. But that is what makes it. That's part of the adventure.
So maybe be retired if you're going to go there, because then you don't have to come back right away, because you might not be coming back right away.
They
Wow.
have internet, so they're
Do they
good.
have internet service?
They do. Yeah.
Okay. How's the fishing?
Fishing's incredible. I mean, it really is. It's all that. You're going to be casting all day, every day to bonefish and trigger fish. If you want to chase GTs, that opportunity is there as well. And yeah,
Okay. All right. So a trigger fish and a GT, giant trevally. Can you just talk about those two species, just for some people that maybe haven't heard those guys?
well, first off, I'm not an expert in either one of them, and I never did land my GT, so I haven't done that either. But the triggerfish, for those that are listening, I'm sure you've seen photos of them. They're beautiful. They're absolutely unique, just gorgeous looking fish. When you get your hands on them, they are incredible. For those that have fished for permit, you know how skittish and elusive they are. You cast and they blast. This is the trigger. You cast 20 yards from them. I swear to God, they hear it and they're gone. So it's a really, really difficult fish to sometimes you get lucky, but it's one of those deals where it's a target rich environment, but you don't make it happen very often.
A trigger fish, harder than a permit, you're saying even?
I would say that it can be as hard. Yeah. I
Okay.
think some
All right.
people would argue that, you know, again, it's kind of like permit. I've seen people step up on their first trip and catch a permit. And I know people that have been on 20 trips and have still not got their permit. So I would say, not being a trigger expert, I've done much more permit fishing,
Yeah.
but I would say that yes, they're very, very skittish and as difficult to get to eat as a permit would be.
Oh, interesting. Okay. It's so Christmas Island, they got GTs too. What are they known for, bonefish mostly, or?
They're known for big bonefish, lots of
Okay.
bonefish, but big ones. They are known for this unique triggerfish, which I'm sure you can find it in other places, but it's pretty unique to there. And then the giant trevally. There are anglers that go down, and those are the anglers that typically are more of your adventure angler. They've kind of been there, done that. They've been to other places and caught bonefish. They certainly want to go to Christmas Island and catch a bonefish or three, but they're not there for the bonefish. They're there to truly catch a giant trevally, and
Okay.
that requires just a much larger rod. You're casting a lot, you're stripping a lot. It's gonna be a little bit more difficult. And then, although you can catch GTs in all over Christmas Island, there's some areas, like some of your listeners that know Christmas Island, like the Korean wreck, that are just are more suited or better opportunities to catch them. And I
Okay.
had an adventure consultant that works for us, Justin Carnop. He was just down there with his wife in a group last 2 weeks ago. I think they got back, and they were over the Korean wreck, and they did quite well. Nothing huge, but they did pick up some nice GTs.
GTs get what, 5 feet long? How big do they get?
Some of them are huge, hence the name Giant Trevally. These were, you can't really see my hands, but they were just nice average size GTs that you'd be proud of.
I heard they just fight like heck too.
Well, they fight like heck. Yeah, I went down when I went to Christmas Island. I've had caught bonefish before, never caught triggers. So I enjoyed catching some bonefish, really enjoyed targeting the triggers, but I would say that 80% of my energy was put toward, catching one of those giant trevally. And I casted every day, all day. When we did go to the Korean wreck, I got some videos of this too. It's this huge surf. It's crashing into you. As soon as it hits you, you start casting into in between the surfs. So the GTs will come in with the surf and then hunt around. And then as the water goes down, they race back out, come back in. So you cast in between in the waves and then just, violently strip. And I did. I got hit violently, and he took it and he took it out to the ocean. There's all this coral, and yeah, I say in this one video, I don't even know how, when I do get it in, I'll even be able to land it, because it's filled with these jagged, rocky, corally, sharp things that are just going to cut your line. But anyway, he was in the deep. He just ran, and I was like, After the initial, like, holy cow, I've got it. I was like, I was like, oh my God, he's in the deep water. Like, I'm going to land him. He's
Yeah.
just going to go on. There's nothing for him to get into. And I don't know what happened. My knot came
You're
untied.
not came undone.
Yeah, it's really
Oh
tough deal. It just my
man.
rod just went straight, and I just went pale,
Yeah.
reeled back in, and yeah, I noticed that the knot had come undone. So that was tragic. Be mindful of tying your own knots.
It was you that not your guide who tied that knot.
It was not me. No, no,
It wasn't
no,
you.
no
Okay.
blame. Yeah, not naming
Not
names,
naming
but
names.
we're
Could
not
happen to the
saying it was
best.
me. I didn't tie it.
You just don't want that little squiggly.
Yeah, it was just that little squiggly. Like, oh man, and you could tell the guy that I was fishing with. He when I was looking at it, he was not the guy that tied it. He was just
Yeah.
like, oh.
Yeah. Came
He went to
untied.
tie it. I actually tied my own stuff from there on out. But Christmas Island is a blast, and we offer two different experiences down there. There's a new lodge that can't say enough about, Christmas Island Lodge, owned by a couple of Americans out of Montana and Idaho. Great guys,
Yeah.
and yeah, love them, love what they've created over there. It's exceptional. And so for those that are wanting to go to Christmas Island without that little edge, they've taken the edge off. Air conditioning and great food and beautiful views and Starlink, and yeah, they've got it dialed. We have other lodges that I call authentic. They are the lodges that have been there forever, and offer an exceptional experience. They're just a little bit different, and they are less expensive. Can be a couple $1,000s less expensive. But in this case, I just like to explain to the people that are going, here's the difference. The fishing is the same. You're going to the same places. This is really comes down to lodge life. What kind of lodge life are you looking for
Okay.
during your adventure? If you don't give crap at all about lodge life, I got a really inexpensive opportunity for you to go. If the full experience is important to you, I've got another lodge that'll blow you away.
Okay. Interesting. All right. How about Ascension Bay? Give us a 2-minute tour of Ascension Bay. What's the headline?
The headline is for all of your true saltwater destinations, the good ones. This is the best, and it's super accessible. You fly to Cancun. So as far as flights go, again, none of this is inexpensive. But in the realm of adventure traveling, going to Cancun versus some of these other places is very inexpensive. You fly to Cancun, and they come pick you up. No matter what lodge you're at, they come pick you up. And certainly the lodges that we work with will pick you right up at the airport, or if you're flying a day early, there's a couple of hotels right there next to the airport, shuttle you out to the lodge. The lodge is in Punta Allen. Lodges. Ascension Bay has got, multiple lodges there. Punta Allen is Punta Allen because of the shuttle. It's about a 4.5 hour drive. Half of it, most people know where Tulum is. So that's a great drive to Tulum, no problem. Pavement, you get to Tulum. Once you get past Tulum, you're going to be in the preserve. And that's when things get really, really bumpy and rough, and the trip can take like 2.5 to 3 hours. I'm so glad the road is like that, because when you get to Punta Allen, you feel like you're in a third world country. Like all the dogs are related, the chickens are running around the streets. I mean, it is authentic. It is awesome. Kids running around in bare feet. There's no video games. There's no kids buried in their iPhones. They're playing soccer in the streets, and the center of the town is a soccer field. It's a special place. And the lodges that we work with, but really all of them, in large part do a great job. We work with a couple that I think do the best, but most of the places down there do a great job. And what you have in front of you is just an incredible fishery. Permit, bonefish, snook, always baby tarpon. And then during migratory season, you've got the giant tarpon that roll in there too.
When is that, Brian? If I could just pause you for a second.
May, June, and July is going to be your best. And obviously, some of them will show up a little early and some will leave a little late. But if you're going to go target them, that's when you want to be there. What's the downside of being on the Ascension Bay in June? It's hot. You
Yeah.
don't. There's not a lot of wind. It kind of keeps things cool. Casting is a lot easier because you don't have the wind. So it's a great time to be there. The problem is, like where I live in Montana and Idaho, most people don't have a desire to go saltwater fishing in summertime. They want to go in the February, March times, which I've been down there. I have had the luxury of being down there 8 times, and that's how
Wow.
much I do love it. Yeah, and, it's an exceptional place. You really can catch, although I haven't. I have caught them all. I haven't caught them all in one day, but a grand slam, it's one of those marketing things where you can catch a grand slam in one day here. It's true. It's true.
Really? In a grand slam, what's in a grand
Grand
slam?
slam, permit, bonefish, snook, and then kind of depending, there's tarpon in there too. There's slams and then there's grand slams, but it's basically getting those in one day.
Wow. And are you in skiffs? Are you out on a boat on the ocean? What are you doing?
You're on a ponga and with a casting kind of platform on front, and most of the lodges, if not all of them, run a two guide system, which is phenomenal. So you've got the main guide in the back, and he runs the motor, gets you out to the flats, and then he jumps up on the platform with the pole. And he's really the eyes, but also your assistant guide, the guide in front, he's the eyes as well, and sometimes they have even better eyes, but they're looking for your fish. The cool thing about the junior guide is that most of us, coming from not being saltwater experts, and even though we've got incredible optics on that we're supposed to allow us to see anything and everything, it's not true. Like, when they say 30 yards 11 o'clock and you're like,
I
where?
don't see anything.
I don't see anything. You just start casting. You just trust them,
They see
and
it.
that's what this guy next to you is there to help you. Like where, and he gets you pointed in the right direction, and he also helps with line management because you
Ah,
got all this line at your feet, and there's wind blowing, and it's everywhere. So number one, casting and having your line managed for you really does help. So you're not stepping on it, and, it's stopping that perfect cast, and now you got to fix it. But more importantly is when you do hook up on a permit or a large tarpon and it gets violent for a second, that guy helps you make sure that that line gets onto your reel. And it's funny, like with permit, like we don't a lot of fish you don't celebrate till they get in the net.
yeah,
Hookup is one thing, but on permit, it's funny. As soon as that line gets on your reel, and you're sitting there,
with a permit.
they're celebrating. It's a
That's
done deal.
we're
They're
good.
they're
Yeah.
bringing that permit in. It's just a matter of time. So yeah, two guide system, multiple fish, target rich environment, inexpensive when you compare it to other saltwater destinations.
Even with two guides, it's inexpensive.
Yeah, and that's just their programs. Like
Huh.
almost because they've learned what a junk show it can be for us anglers if we're standing up there by ourselves trying to manage our own line, and have all these where and we're turning around, where's 11 o'clock, which side is right. They help out with that. So I think it's just one of those things that they've learned. So they themselves can have a better fishing experience. They have two guides out there to help you.
All right, how do gratuities work when you got two guides?
And it's two ways. Each lodge does it different. Some of them have you tip the guides at the end of the day, and then at the end of the week you'll tip the house staff and the chefs and everybody.
Mhm.
Some outfits have you tip everything at the very end. And so we
Mhm.
always tell people, 10 to 15% of the total experience. And then the
Hmm.
lodge manager, divides it out accordingly.
Divvies it up. Yeah.
In Ascension Bay, we do typically tip the guides, and you tip the head guide. And then the
Oh,
head guide gives the junior guide, because the junior guide is usually lacking something, experience or English.
yeah.
So his goal is he wants to get up on that platform. That's where the money's at, and so he's just earning his way up onto that platform, and he doesn't
Yeah.
get the majority. The head guy does.
That's super interesting. And I'm just curious, what's a guide in Mexico make in a year?
In Punta Allen, I can't say specifically. I don't know what these lodges make. What they're actually paying them, but I can tell you that they're the top of the pyramid in Punta Allen.
Are they?
Yeah,
Okay. So they can make a decent living doing
very
guiding down there.
own homes, raise a family, a very highly respected profession in
Really?
Punta.
Cool. That's
Yep.
great. And dates down there, you mentioned summertime. Can you fish there year round? What are the best dates for some of these other species?
It's a year-round fishery for sure. There are some seasons that have, hurricane watches, but it is a year-round fishery. Me personally, I can speak to the times that I've been down there, and then some times that I am actually considering. I've been down there in the February, March, and April's, and it's been fantastic. I absolutely, have had an incredible time there. Fishing is incredible. You get into the summer, it can be a little windy. So people say, what's the downside? It can be a little windy, a little bit breezy. When we get to the kind of the off season, which I feel is like the summer. It's a little bit off season to us because again, nobody likes to come down there in June, July, and August. That can be incredible. That can be an incredible time because there's no wind, but you have the heat. I am looking to get back down there with the group in September, October, November. It's kind of the same as the March, April. It's still nice, not a lot of wind, and so we have a lot of hunters in our group. So kind of that September, October, November is a little bit difficult for them to get
Yeah.
out. But yeah, we're looking to go down there in September and October, and also there's not as many people down there. A lot of times the people have stopped going down there, and so a lot more availability at the lodges.
Okay, thank you for giving us that overview. That was fantastic, Brian.
Yeah.
Give me some your thoughts. I know you do your trade show, presentation on this, but kind of like things to consider, how to prepare, tips, just about all this.
For adventure travel
Yeah,
specifically,
for venture travel. Yeah, international venture travel, or just even any of it.
first thing, partner up with a booking agency. That would be number one. Find a booking agency that you trust. They're a wealth of information beyond the lodges. They really are. Gear lists, travel tips, shuttle rides, deals on gear. So partner up with a good booking agency if you're going to really truly get into adventure travel. Don't just count on Google and calling these lodges.
Yeah.
So that'd be the biggest tip. Find a gut fishing of your flavor that you enjoy working with. There's great companies out there besides us. So pick an adventure booking agency that has been in
Okay.
business for longer than, a year or two. The other tips that I would have is, I mean, honestly, there's so many. It's just kind of depending on. I think my biggest one is don't overpay for gear. So many of these experiences like saltwater, and you find out you booked this trip and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I kind of looked at the gear list, but now I'm really looking at it and it requires an 8 weight, a 9 weight, a 10 weight, all this saltwater line, all this new backing because I need to have at least 250 yards on it. Do I need a saltwater reel? Will a non-saltwater reel work if I just rinse it out? Like it can get like a little bit overwhelming on the gear side. And I
Yeah.
think that's again where it's important to have a consultant, an adventure consultant to be working with, because a lot of these lodges, and again, these are the questions that we ask, how much gear do you have? Because if you don't have a ton of gear, we might have a lodge that's a little bit less expensive, but we also might have a lodge that's slightly more expensive, but they provide everything that
Okay.
you're going to need. So you don't have to be out there buying a bunch of saltwater gear that you may never use again. Now, it's
Okay.
addicting, and you probably will, but I think a lot of it is make sure that you're buying, you're not spending a bunch of money on gear you're never going to use again. So
Right.
be
Right.
smart about that.
I read in your deck that you showed me that I really love like instead of buying $1,000 rod, maybe buy two, four or $500 rods, right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. That is a big mistake I see people make. And I think if you have the pocketbook, do it. But I have a couple of and this is just my opinion. So
Yeah.
flush it. It's free. I think it's a huge mistake to buy a really expensive, high performing rod as your first go to rod. 5 weight, 8 weight, it doesn't matter. The reason is most beginner anglers don't even know the technology,
Yeah.
that rod offers. So you don't really get to understand what it is that you've just purchased. So getting a good middle of the road rod, and I don't want to, there's great companies out there that have beyond middle of the road, but offer a well priced rod.
Yeah.
My favorite today is Temple Fork, just to give them
Yeah.
a plug. I love Temple Fork. I love Temple Fork. Number one, their customer service is through the roof. But number two, they have a great variety of rods that are high performance rods for inexpensive. So when you open up my rod case, you're not going to find one of each in this high end, expensive Sage Winston realm. You're going to find two or three 8 weights, fast action, medium action, temple forks. You're going to find two or three 5 weights. I like to have not only extra rods for a variety of reasons, but also different environments. Like right now, steelhead fishing. I don't really want a super fast action rod. We're more chucking heavier stuff. I want a little bit more medium action 8 weight. So do you need to have a faster or medium? Again, I have fished with one rod for all of these things before, but it is nice instead of just having one rod to be able to have some diversity. And so a lot of times I own 2 or 3 rods with which people that I'm fishing with paid for their one.
Yeah.
Then the
Makes
big
sense.
thing is breaking it. I think that there's a couple things. One, there's a lot of noise out there, and people know what I'm talking about. When you break one of your high end rods that they promised they would be there for you, and you spent a lot of money for that, and you sent your rod in, it's fishing season right now. That's why you broke it, and it takes weeks, if not months, to get it back. That's a non-starter.
Yeah, it's a problem.
What is that? So, companies like Temple Fork, and there's others out there, not to just keep pitching them. You're getting your rod back immediately. They have a
Oh,
warranty
well,
system set up,
that's
so
super cool.
yeah.
Brian, let me ask you this because, like, how much communication can you get too many phone calls from I mean, because what you're doing is you're taking a lot of the questions, right? And you're really talking to these folks. And I wonder, like, how much communication can I expect? Like, I book a trip and I got tons of questions. What can I expect from a good booking agency?
Well, I think all of us are different. I can speak to me and my team. This is what we do. This is what we do. You can call me at 8 o'clock at night or 6 in the morning. Right now we're steelhead fishing. I just got back from a film tour yesterday up in Spokane, Washington. This is what we do. We've designed a life around fishing around the world and helping people make the best adventure possible. We tell people all the time, if we can't sit here and tell you that our goal is to put you on the most amazing fishing adventure for you personally, and then you got 6 questions, or it's limited to this. So we have some clients that ask almost no questions. We have real detailed information on flights and gear and what to expect and when the second deposit's due and all those things. But we have other clients that are so excited, and they'll be cruising down the road and something will pop into their head, like, what flies are we using in August? Or
They just want to talk to you. They want to talk about the trip, don't
totally.
they?
And
Yeah.
they always start with, hey, I'm sorry. Hey, I'm sorry to bug you. And I tell
Ah,
everybody, you are not bugging me. I love talking about this, like literally love talking about helping you put an amazing adventure together. I feel blessed at the highest level to be able to do this. And I
yeah.
also really respect how much money you're spending and how exciting these things are. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I want to answer your
Your phone must ring all the time.
Well, it rang while we were on the call here, and I got people walking through the door, and this is what we do.
Okay. Brian, where did this passion for the outdoors come from? You're from Montana, you live in Idaho, so you live right in the thick of it. But what about your growing up led you to this?
Well, my dad, I'm super lucky to have the mom and dad that were really, really into the outdoors. So I had that quintessential Montana upbringing where, on the weekends we went and got loaded into the van and went to the mountains and camped at those campsites. And we ran
Really?
around, chasing each other with sticks. And my dad was a pretty big angler, not a fly angler, but I grew up trolling. I grew up on a lake called Seeley Lake, right outside of
Sealy
Missoula.
Lake, sure. The John
Yeah,
McClain Lake, if a river
right
runs through
across
it.
the. Yeah, yeah, exactly. You
Wow.
see a cabin from ours, and so I literally grew up fishing on that dock every single morning with marshmallows and worms, and so yeah, started hunting at a very young age, hiking through Glacier National Park for our vacations. So I was very, very fortunate to be born and raised. We're not just in Montana, but be born and raised in the backcountry. And this is what we did for vacations. And so I don't know where the desire came for like this. I will tell you, there was something that was always burning in me, and I would talk to my friends about it. About I would love to own a company where we put together amazing, like just world class adventures that nobody had ever heard of, and helicopter you into some crazy place and drop you off, and you hike out while fishing. Got fishing is obviously a little bit different than that, but I think that it kind of came from that dream, that desire to own an adventure company that put people in these really, really cool, crazy, awesome experiences and created lifelong memories. As cheesy as it sounds and seems, I think a lot of people like say it, but I really do think that we're very lucky to have this life. And I think that, there's so much to see and so much to do that fishing and hunting and hiking and biking really opens the door to so much more than just that experience. And so I think it's an incredible way of seeing the world, seeing other states,
Yeah.
meeting other people, and then of course there's that buzzword culture. But truthfully, going to some of these countries with a specific, whether you're touring, bike touring across it, or whether you're on some wine tour or hopefully a fishing adventure, that's how you get to know people's personalities. That's when you get to know about the guide's family and the churches on Sunday that you get invited to, and
Yeah.
you just get a whole different look at what their life looks like in comparison to kind of this subsurface view that kind of us tourists get, but there's a whole nother level to it.
So 19 years ago, I know you had kind of a major, I don't know, a change in your life, and I'm kind of wondering if you'd be willing to talk about life before that and life after that.
I would love to. I would love to. Yeah, I was a prolific partier back in the day. And anybody who knows me, yeah, we grew up in Montana and we drank a lot. We partied a lot, and everything that we did, had partying involved in it, including our outdoor adventures. We just drank a lot. And when all of my friends set it down, as they got older and moved on with their life, I didn't. And all of a sudden, this thing that I was saying, that I was partying, it wasn't really a party because it was just me, and kind of the party had ended. But I ended up realizing that I had a disease called alcoholism. It is something that struck a lot of people in my family. I definitely stayed in denial for years and years and years. It is not like I was just someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, "I think you have a drinking problem," and I said, "Oh, I think you're right." No, I rode this pony into the dirt, and nothing too crazy, but I stayed on the train for a long time. And I stayed in denial because little things like showed up for work every single day. I built businesses while I was going through this disease and raising a family, and I was doing a lot of things that optically looked really, really good, but
Yeah.
I was doing it running on E. And then when I was confronted with stopping and I realized that I couldn't, that began to perplex me. And yeah, I really kind of thought that I would be able to when the time was right, and the time became right, and I wasn't able to. So I sought help, and I personally went to a 30-day treatment center because, again, I was lost. I didn't know how to get off this train, like totally confused on this addiction to
Yeah.
alcohol. And so, yeah, I went and sought help, and man, for the listeners out there that are even questioning, if you're questioning it, you should seek some help. And it
Yeah.
changed my life like I can't even explain. Yeah. It
Huh.
gave me
Getting
my life.
off alcohol.
Yeah. Gave me my life back because all of the things that I would say were important to me, some of the stories that I was telling at the bar were not stories of yesterday. They were stories of years ago, things that I used to do, hunting trips that I used to do. And I was telling them as if they happened last year.
Hmm.
And I remember looking in the mirror in a bar one day, saying to myself, these are not true stories. They're from yesterday, and you're not that person anymore.
Yeah. Wow.
So I really wanted to be that person again. I knew that I was given this incredible gift, and I wanted to live the best life possible. So I sought help, got my life back, and yeah, in all honesty, obviously, you can see I get a little emotional about it because
Yeah.
it has been an incredible journey and one that I'm so grateful for. I often say to people, man, when they hear the story, that's incredible. And I always tell people I would do it all again to have what I have today,
Yeah.
because what I have today is what most people don't have. And it's an understanding what life is about.
Wow.
And yeah,
Thanks for sharing that.
yeah,
I wanted to ask you, so that was the turning point in that bar looking in the mirror. That's maybe that was the end of your rope?
it was the beginning of the end. Yeah, my brother
Beginning.
got
Okay.
involved, but it was the beginning of me recognizing that this was not Brian Oakland. This
Yeah.
was not who I was, that I was telling a story that was true, but it was true yesterday, years ago. And this person that I was selling myself as was not the person that I was anymore. But it was something that I was trying to sell to you sitting next to me. So it was a desire that I had to be that person. I wanted to be out there steelhead fishing. I wanted to be out there hunting and doing these cool things, but I would go on these adventures and get so strapped down with alcohol that I wasn't really capturing the essence of these things. So
Yeah.
once I got free of that, it just kicked the door wide open to
Wow.
not only really experiencing these experiences at a different level, but having a completely different understanding about, you know, what this means. I talk a lot
Yeah.
about, wanting to be there for the end user of these adventures and making sure that they're on the best trip possible. A lot of that comes from the program because the program is all about service to others.
Is AA?
That's where, yeah, that is where
Yeah.
happiness occurs. And it's not just AA. It's in the Bible. It's in a lot of self-help stuff. That at the end of all of this, at the end of when you get your shit together, the way to keep it together is service to others.
Amen.
It's also,
Yeah.
even if you haven't had to go through some tragedy, it is the single greatest way to experience eternal happiness. It's a fact. And I dare you to go
I
challenge,
get out of yourself.
get
Start
out of
doing something
yourself.
for other people.
So yeah, that really turned the light on for me. And then when I
Yeah.
began to practice service to others in all capacities of life,
Yeah. Life changed. Brian, what right, look where you are right now. Brian, what role did faith? You mentioned the Bible, and I know you're a man of faith because I'm friends of yours, but can you talk
yeah,
about faith and what that's meant to you?
yeah, I can. So I was a believer. Again, thanks to my parents, up until I went and got some help. I feel that that's important because I was at least open to this idea that there was a God.
Yeah.
But that's all the further that I took it. My parents took me to church and stuff. They were not Bible thumpers by any stretch, just something that they thought was important. We didn't pray before dinner or talk about verses or anything. Just I did go to church on Sundays and I did do a little bit of youth group on Wednesdays. But like I said, couldn't quote a Bible verse if I had to. But it was in my back pocket, and I think that that was really important. And same thing that I ended up providing for my kids, because the introduction to God, at least, makes the person open to when it comes around in life, which it
Yeah.
will. You're more open to this idea. So I moved from belief to faith because, and I'll say this without tearing up, I asked to be relieved of this desire to drink.
That was a prayer of yours.
Yeah,
And it happened.
19 years.
Wow. Well,
Yeah,
good for you. Congratulations. And the world is a better place because of that.
yeah, I feel very, very fortunate.
Have you been able to disciple others in your faith?
So yeah, it's still a huge part of my life today. But I would say in the first probably 10 years of my 19 years of sobriety, I was dog crazy about helping other people, especially men that were struggling with, substance abuse at any capacity, going
Yeah.
through divorces, going through alcoholism, going through challenges that were beyond their control, that had, really taken their life in a direction that they were not wanting it to go, and they wanted to get things reeled back in. And so, yes, I've spent and helped, hopefully
Good for
some
you.
I wasn't able to help, but I've helped hopefully dozens and dozens of men and women, but mainly men, get their lives back together
How about that?
through just fishing, meeting with them, all kinds of, all different ways.
Yeah. So your life really changed, and you think the faith had a lot to do with that, huh?
I think what it did was it introduced me to the power of having, a power greater than myself, someone that I could count on a consistent basis, someone that I could talk to on the river. I think the problem with prayer today is that we were taught how to pray,
Yeah.
um, and told to pray, but what we weren't told to do was to listen and to pay attention after the prayer. And so a lot of times, you don't know that God's working in your life because you're not paying attention to it. So it brought an awareness to me about, having a power greater than myself in my life. And as I used a mentor to look back in my life and realize that, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm here today because I do have a God in my life. I wouldn't have had so many incredible things happen to me, including this disease. And if I started to paying attention to God working in my life, that I would see it. It wouldn't be something that someone else had to tell me. It didn't have to be a Bible verse. It was my own real experience, my own real relationship with God. God entered into my life because I was willing to have him in my life, and I was willing
Yeah.
to have it be my own relationship with God. And the biggest thing that I was told was, pray, but pay attention. That's the biggest thing,
Yeah. I love that.
And so, yeah, I actually saw him working in my life and saw my life turn around. I saw the power of working with other people. I saw
Yeah.
what happened to other people when they introduced the same idea, made it their own. It became incredible. And I want the listeners to know, I'm not a Bible thumper. You're not going to find a Bible in my truck. It's not like that. But I am a man of faith, and I have what I have today because of my relationship with God. Period.
Yeah.
End of story.
And you're talking about Jesus, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you one other question. You've got a really interesting philosophy on obstacles, don't you?
Well,
Do you know what I'm talking about? Can you talk about that?
Well, if you mean that my idea on obstacles is that they're God given and that they're meant to be in our lives
And can
intentionally,
launch you forward, right? Is what you've told me.
100%. Like we don't get stronger on sunny days. It's the rainy days. It's the tough days. It's a concept that some people really do understand, but many don't. You do want challenges in your life. You do. You do want to honor this one opportunity you have to be on this earth, and you want to be a bigger, better, stronger person for your family, your
Yeah.
friends, the people around you. And you cannot be mentally, physically, and spiritually stronger if you're not overcoming stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Brian, this has been really awesome. It feels weird to go to my normal closing question, but I always ask my guests at the end. Thanks for sharing all that. But favorite shore lunch, and of all these places you traveled, can you give us one or two spots where the food is just amazing? Probably in the lodges that you eat, but what's your favorite shore lunch in all these places you've been?
That one is an easy one. That one is Jurassic Lake. They have these little huts that are right down on the lake, three-sided, facing the lake again because of the winds. They picnic tables, get you out of the wind, and they serve a shore lunch like you've never seen. Again, I'm not a
Ah,
drinker, but bottles of wine and salamis and cheeses and appetizers, while the head guide Martine, cooks up a paella with shrimp and just
wow.
it's just a nice, beautiful hot meal. Your lunch is typically about an hour, just relaxing. Some people lay down in the back of the trucks and take a nap. Yeah, it's a really, really cool experience and a great way to. It's a long day of fishing there. They certainly don't cheat you on that, and there's a really awesome shore lunch. So that's probably my
That's
favorite
cool.
shore lunch.
Okay, I love it. All right, and then what about, gosh, all the places you've eaten? Can you think of I don't know, some back road place that people just absolutely got to hit? Maybe something in Idaho. I don't know, something that most of our angler or listeners can go to.
Obviously, Montana and Idaho are big places. There's a sandwich shop in Chalice, Idaho, which is kind of from Stanley, Idaho, over to Missoula, Montana. It's a place that a lot of people travel through. You just don't know that you're really traveling through it till you get there. There's a sandwich shop right at the edge of town that's really famous for just these inexpensive giant sandwiches. Like a 4-inch sandwich is more than I can actually eat. But yeah, I don't know
Wow,
how great a tip that is, but
sounds like a good one.
I think what I always do is ask the guides. I literally do. I ask the
Yeah,
guides, when I get off the river, hey, where should we be going for a good burger or a good beer? Because again, this is their hometown. They're, you know, they
right.
they know where to go.
That's a great tip. Brian, thanks for being on the show. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I hope I really appreciated the opportunity as well.
You bet. How can people get in touch with you? They want to hear more or book a trip.
Gotfishing.com. So yeah, that's really easy. All of our tags, for Instagram, got fishing. So follow us there. We're always talking about stuff that we're doing, hosted trips that we've got coming up. You jump on our website at gotfishing.com and sign up for our newsletters. We send out a newsletter once a week, just talking about the different destinations and different things to know about it. And yeah, I'd love
All
for you to
right.
follow me as well. If for those of you that have an interest in, travel and serving others, and just being, good stewards of kicking ass and taking names and being good people. My Instagram is Brian _Oakland. 208-406, and would love to have you follow me as well.
We got to put together a trip that's like a faith-based trip. You fish a little bit, you discuss your faith. Maybe we can get a pastor to come with us. How does that sound? I'll come on that trip.
I'd love to. I will say, on a very serious note, I do know for a fact that even on this listening base, because I run into them at every single hosted trip, people approach me because they don't know me till we get on the hosted trips, and then we're at these amazing lodges, and I'm the only one that's not drinking or often. There's probably not a trip that somebody or multiple people don't come up and begin to explore why I'm sober, how I got sober, because they're exploring it. And so what I would leave with people is this. If you're thinking about it, if you're wondering, do something about it. It will change your life forever. And the other thing I'd like to tell people is, I think that partying is the greatest sport that was ever made. It's just not a sport that I get to play in anymore. So I'm not an anti-drinker, an anti-partier. But for those that are looking to have a different life, maybe this has gotten a hold of them, I would love to help you.
Oh, man. Brian, thank you so much. Listen, wish you extraordinary success in all your adventures to follow. And you're all about adventure, so I'm sure there'll be more. And folks, thank you for listening. And we'll be sure to post Brian's contact info. It's pretty simple, gotfishing.com. But anyway, check out the Destination Angler Instagram page. Come to our website. We've got some fantastic pictures and videos that Brian's sending me. You can DM me or email me with comments and suggestions at shaig@destinationanglerpodcast.com. If you like the show, it really helps if you share it with a buddy. As always, our music is by our Brothers Fountain. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll catch you again next time. Tight lines, everybody.
Well, I'll go from the land to the shining sea. But I know there's more to life than what the eye can see.